Element 5. Yeah.
Then element 5, master responsibility authority. So more of the what is auditable out here is whether the review is being carried out periodically, regularly, whether it's done once in the contract of the master, or once in 6 months, or once in quarter, or whatever, right? And whether in this review everyone is involved. It's not just the master; everybody's involved, and this is called actually a shipboard review and not a master's review. So the terminology used is shipboard review. So it should actually be shipboard and not termed as master's review. Otherwise, all the other officers will believe that it is the master's responsibility and not their responsibility. Whereas the master's review, as an auditor, you must check whether everybody is involved, whether the ABs, the third person, the cook, everyone's involved in giving their feedback on their respective procedures. And also you can check whether the master has ever exercised the overriding authority and whether the master is familiar with the overriding authority, and whether there is any restriction. Does he have to take permission from the office so that he'll be able to exercise, or can the master exercise without taking permission? So that's what is the overriding authority meant for. Element 5. Okay. Right. So that's element 5. Element 6 is about resources and personnel, right? And in this, you'll be checking, the qualifications. You can check the training requirements, whether people are getting training on board on ISM matters, or whether the drills are being sorry, not the drills, the familiarization has been conducted, the safety familiarization, user and familiarization, how is that? Whether people are familiar with their, uh, you know, familiar with their responsibilities on board, right? And how many working languages do they have? One working language or more than one? And are people able to communicate with each other if there's more than one working language, right? So the standard permits more than one working language, but what the standard requires is that they should be able to communicate in what you call in a common sort of language, right? So that's the what you call a requirement on the SML. In case they have two working languages, then you also need to check that all the safety procedures, safety and emergency procedures, such as launching of a lifeboat, starting emergency fire pump, emergency generator, and SOLAS training manual, the fire training manual, whether these are also in that alternate language or languages for the ship staff. So that's again something that you all can check and audit. And, uh, and element 7 talks about planned procedures for key shipboard operations. So the element 7 requires that for virtually all the key operations on board, there should be some procedures in the SMS, and where relevant or where required, checklist as well to support the procedures, right? So checklist and procedures need to be sort of there for all key shipboard operations, right? So, so before we move on, anyone's got anything to ask on element 5, element 6, and element 7 before we move on to 8? Anyone's got anything to ask on element 5, element 6, and element 7? Yeah. Yes, Captain FND. How are you? Captain Normal FND.
I'm good, sir.
Good. Okay. Well, this morning, all the elements that we've done so far. Anything that you'd like to clarify? Anything that you'd like to add?
No, I don't mind. All good. Thank you, sir.
Can anybody say what else can be audited under element 5, 6, and 7? discussed some things, but is there anyone who can add further as to what are the auditable items in element? I've mentioned the broad ones, but if you have anything to add on element 5, 6, 7, please feel free.
Under element 7, this also to be checked that these plant procedures are accessible by all the crew, starting from management to boiler and wiper. In case it is not in digital form, whether the hard copy is available in the common places where they can review it, because not necessarily all the plant procedures are hard copy, or it is based on the computer and something like that.
Right, very good. The point Jitendra mentioned, right, that the procedures should be procedures and checklists. The latest version, the updated version, need to be available to the ships now at any point of time. They should have access to that readily available. If it's a soft copy, they should have access to auditable items. You can check whether they have access easy and access at any time. Right. So very good, good. Add on that you've done on auditing details. Anything else? Anybody would like to add?
Yeah, I will just add one point. Now, when you have a digital SMS, it's very important that the backup computer for digital SMS has to be having the same update as the main computer. Because if your server fails, then your backup computer, very often people forget it is a standalone computer. They don't have the backup updated with the same version.
Right. Yeah. So the case is very good. What Montero has mentioned that they was that. So where the procedures are, sometimes what happens is that procedures are updated and available, but on the ship you generally will not have sort of internet connection in such a manner that you will have procedures online, and so the procedures will be there in some PDF format, and amendments also keep coming in, and so very correct. But in case this computer crashes or whatever, then do they have a backup where they can back up all their documents, also their records. So backup of that should be available either on a computer, or they should have a backup mechanism that means they have hard disks where they take backup, right? So the data backup is preserved, right? But they're very good. So that's another very good point added in element 7, that they should have means of backup, right? Very good. Good points added so far. Anyone else? In fact, this backup, taking the backup should, suppose you go and audit and say, "Oh, we take backup once in 10, 15 days." So if it's a little bit one of those statements where loose hanging statements, then you can ask the master, do they have a backup procedure? So if they don't have a backup procedure, then that can be definitely a non.
No, it's not. That's not actually when you have a digital SMS. I think most of the companies will have on their own a separate standalone computer where the backup is. It is a backup computer to be used in case of emergency. So
Yeah,
that
so I
that computer, the IT department updates every time they update, because the main server normally gets it online. Every time they connect it, the updates will come. But they have to make sure that the backup computer also is updated.
Yeah. So basically, I would come to that. So basically, whether you have a backup methodology which you are required to have, because these days we have a lot of digitized records and digitized documentation. So a backup procedure is required in the office, so that whatever it is, you take weekly backup, monthly backup, 3 monthly backup, and 6 monthly backups. Then where do you preserve these backups just in case there is a fire in the office and everything gets destroyed? So you generally also have to have certain backups that are passed outside the office. That's for the office backup. But similarly, even for the ship backup, if you have records stored in computers, then and unless these records are already passed on to the company server, then it's okay. But if they're only preserved on both the vessels, and you don't have a backup mechanism of synchronization of the ship's computer with the office, then your data may be lost. that case, they need to have a backup on their own, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So one question. Let me just put this question to yeah. So let's go to some of these people have joined, right? Okay. To Sita, hi. How are you? Sita, you hear us, Sita?
Yes, Captain. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, so Sita, tell me, you've been sailing on ships, right? So, we have procedure for drills, we have procedure for PMS, we have procedure for arrival departure, we have procedures for ballasting, deballasting, loading, discharging, we have procedures for navigation, we have procedures for almost everything, right? But we do not have a procedure on the ship for how to eat food. I'm not saying how to prepare food. We have procedure, you may have procedures for hygiene and all that. How to prepare, so how to store food, how to eat food. We don't have procedure. Am I right to see that?
Yeah.
Why is it that we don't have procedure how to eat food, but we have procedure how to operate an olive oil spreader and other procedures?
Kind of the
So,
cultural thing would be that there would be the multinational foods would be sale.
no, 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 no. I'm not saying how what food to be prepared. I'm saying how to eat food. There's no procedure companies have how to eat food. They have procedure for every other key activity. But like I mentioned, so many activities, including arrival, departure, loading, discharging, PMS, drills, hot work, etc., etc., etc. So, but there's no procedure how to eat food. Why is it that we don't have procedure on how to eat food? We've got procedure for everything else, but no procedure how to eat food. Yes. Any ideas, Sushila? What is your opinion? Why is it that they don't? There's nobody asking for any procedure. No company has it. But why so? Yeah. Yes. Anybody as to why there is no procedure how to eat food?
Can I try?
Yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, because it's kept into tragedy. Like eating food cannot bring us to some problem. Not, yeah,
Right.
we mostly make plans and procedures for the operation of the vessel,
Hmm.
for following and not for bringing the vessel to the strategy.
Where there is a problem, right? Right. Okay. Very good, Sergi. So can we say that instead of problem, we can use the word where there is hazard, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So very good. Agree. So Captain Thirty says, and very correctly, that since eating food has has not led to any incidents, near misses, fatalities, or whatever, maybe one in a million, we don't normally hear. We hear of incidents, near misses in all the other processes, whether it's loading, discharging, balancing, rebalancing, PMS, hot work, arrival, departure, etc., etc. But we don't hear of any incident near miss eating food. So since the risks are virtually zero, so we can say that okay, we don't need to spend time and money on procedures for this because what you call there is no risk associated. So you need other, and that's the reason why we have procedures for arrival or departure, because we don't have a procedure for arrival or departure, then Captain Surgery will follow one procedure, Swaminathan will follow another procedure, Alfie will follow another procedure. We all will follow whatever comes to our mind, right? So we need greater system dependency and people following the system, and that's why we define procedures and have relevant checklists, whatever, for all key shipboard operations. Well, thank you very much. That's element 7. So let's move on to element 8. Element 8 is like, an element you can actually see which is addressed in two other standards besides ISM code. It's part of 14,001 and it's also in 45,001. 45,001 is the standard which is exam 14,000 and 45,001, they all have the requirement. What are the requirements? Every company should identify potential emergency shipboard situations. They should have procedures to respond to them, and the company should establish programs for drill exercises. So basically, you have identified potential emergencies, collision, fire, collision, whatever. Then have procedures to respond to them. When you conduct drills, so this is a very very straightforward, and right, and so that by conducting drills, they are in a position to sort of ensure that the company and can respond to any emergency. Now these emergency procedures are meant for ship, but you also need to identify the possible emergencies in the office. You have to also identify possible emergencies in the office. That means, besides identifying emergencies on the ship, you also identify emergencies in the office. Right? So let's go to Captain Hidayu. Captain Noor Hidayu, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, so Captain Hidayu, please tell us that in the in an office, what are the emergencies that can occur in an office environment? On the ship, we know there are so many things, but in an office environment, what are the different emergencies?
Emergency preparedness, we have several tier of emergency, so it's depend on which tier of emergency. And for us, like if we have an emergency with the ships or at the jetty, so we have the control center. For the pilot, we report to the control center, and the control center will report to our bosses and managers and all, and they will start activate because we with the Petronas in the Sungai Udang. So they will start activate the emergency team. In the Petronas, we have firefighters, we have our own doctors. So accordingly with the emergency, they will activate all those people.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that you are talking of emergencies on the ship, but you can also have an emergency in your pilot office where you are managing things from, right? Okay,
Yes, correct.
maybe communication breakdown or maybe a power outage or something like that. In which
Yes,
case you are not in a position to communicate. So you have your procedures also identified such emergencies, right?
yes, correct.
Okay, right. Okay, good. So, so that's regarding the emergencies. Okay, very good. So let's go on to element nine. Element nine talks about accidents, incidents, non-conformities, right? And you have two approaches. One is to prevent occurrence, that means you do not want it to occur in your organization, and you learn from others' mistakes. That means other organizations, when they make mistakes, you take proactive action and prevent occurrence. The other option is you make mistakes and you learn from your own mistakes. That is reactive, prevent recurrence, right? So which option is better? Whether is it better to learn from other people's mistakes, or is it better to learn from your own mistakes? Which is a better option?
The better option is learn from the other mistakes.
Learn from other people's mistakes is the better option, right? Because you don't pay for that, so somebody else has lost something, resources or whatever, and you learn from that. So you take what is called as proactive action, right? So you can, during the course of auditing, you can actually check whether people in the element 8, whether they are familiar with emergency procedures, whether it was a response received, how was the drills conducted, what are the lessons learned after the drills, right? And is the emergency equipment operating, and people familiar, how to operate that. And in the case of element 9, you can check out how are they, sort of recording their near misses, their non-conformities, and whether they are taking appropriate action based on the near misses and the non-conformities, and right, corrective action and action to prevent recurrence and incidents and accidents, whether they are carrying out investigation and whether the actions and the, let's say, the conclusions from the investigations, whether those have been implemented on both the vessels. So these are some of the broad things that you can check in element 8 and element 9. Anyone would like to add anything in element 8 and 9? What else would you like to check as an auditor? Yes, Montero, anything you would like to add? Element 8, element 9?
Yeah, like learning from others, like we are part of a program with them, learn from incidents. They share
Correct.
incidents that occur. So one of the things what we do is also we check whether if the onboard training is conducted with basis on what is shared from the LFI learn from incident, and
Right.
later on they graduated it to resilience training of how to. Yes, so basically when we check, we audited check how the onboard people are basically following it up, and how well the program is, whether it's getting the benefit from.
The LFI, whether the LFI has been adequately implemented, understood, and
Yeah,
implemented,
implement.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, right. So that's learning from mistakes. Anybody else would like to add anything in element 8 and element 9, besides what we have discussed? Yeah,
Normally, we could have kind of
Right?
with
yeah.
safety law like CSI, with photos of USA. Something
Right.
like this, so that we could use it to get a very experience how well and how effectively it is. We carried out every year. We have understood functions, and particularly that is going to be we do it.
Yeah.
We do according
Yeah.
to the very much actual.
So this drill is it a surprise drill?
No, we do for take one day prior.
1 day prior.
But all the stakeholders, right from the NRC, the contractor, the class, everyone is involved like.
Oh, that's the case. That's an annual exercise you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
That's a key part.
Hmm. You're talking about you talking about the USCG requirement, or you're because there's an annual exercise ISM and ISPs every company has to do once every calendar year at intervals not exceeding 18 months, right? And you may be doing some extra prior USCG, US arrival, US post arrival. Is that right?
what you are saying is you have to see the arrival, what the we combine with what you say. The other two are plus the mandatory.
Right. Okay. What I'm saying is slightly different. Thanks a lot, Swaminathan, you mentioning that. What I'm saying is to make your emergency drills more effective, because when they do it on the ship, the timing is decided at so and so time is the fire drill and the manual ship drill. Everyone's prepared for it. So, their readiness is not subject to any test because they are ready in advance. So it's like, when you were in Singapore and you were on your office on the 30th floor, and you know there's an emergency drill at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So everybody comes down at 11:30 using the elevators on the left, and you come down because you don't want to walk down these floors. So truly speaking, if the drills are conducted even in the building in a surprise manner, so everybody would get the real feel of actually evacuating the building, right? And that will be closer to a real time scenario. So similarly, since you all prepared in the office, the ship staff is also extremely well prepared. So what you can do is conduct surprise drills, in such a manner where you can call the captain and instruct the captain, okay, captain, it's right now 11:30, and we want you to conduct a drill right away, call a port drill, and send us the your results and outcome. I'm prepared that how long it took for everybody to mobilize and sort of get their LSA and FFA activated. So you can have some sort of a measurement by with the timing. So it's taken them about 5 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever to activate themselves and get So that is something like you can have these occasionally once in 3 4 months, but surprise. So that'll of course you'll have to just keep in mind the time zone. So, but yeah,
But what you're trying to say is that yes, but the scenario is never is. The scenario is a separate one.
no. The scenario is different. I'm talking just the routine portal and the routine pattern. I'm not talking about the exercise. I can understand what you're saying, but even then, they are prepared. So, which is not so bad if you don't believe the scenario is good. But even if your routine monthly that you're doing portal and fire so once every 3 to 4 months, actually, the bills can be initiated by the office with a telephone call, And so the ship is taken by surprise. If they're in the middle of the sea or whatever, you can tell them to conduct these bills. Of course, you just need to keep track of two things. One is the time zone, and then you can also monitor the weather. What are the weather conditions there? These days, weather is available on apps, so you know what that weather is all right in that particular, so they can conduct it. I'm just saying, what you call a step that will improve the quality of their bed. Right? Anyone's got anything to? Yeah. Anyone? Yes, Soina, sounds good.
Oh, I'll get that feedback and WhatsApp it.
Right, yeah, that's right. So that's what they're prepared with. Anyone else on elements 8 and 9? Anyone wants to add something?
Yeah,
Keshav
and
is doing.
another thing on,
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, number
Yeah.
nine, another thing we do check is every month when the safety department shares the fleet, then the non-conformities and other things within the fleet,
Yeah.
whether the people on board are aware, are they reading that? Because very often you have the recurrence of the same observations or non-conformities.
Right.
So
Right.
one of the things we check during audit is the awareness of the people of what's happening on our ship.
Right. But yeah, okay. I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, but there is also an important requirement here of system dependency because you may have chief engineers, masters, officers on team. They don't know what's happened in the last 5 6 months. When they come back, your whatever non-conformity you do not want them to repeat, then your systems need to be adequately amended so that when they come back, they don't need to look into any circular or bulletin. They actually follow the procedure, and the checklist. This
Yeah,
is why
now
so
now we are giving them access on leave also. So these go to the email. So right now, so we have just started that. So some organizations are following that. And also, if you have a digital SMS, then the updates automatically reflect. So when they come, they can see the important ones which are there.
yeah, so that's very important. You can send them emails, but don't expect them to be spending too much time during their leave. So but as long as you're updating the SMS, and they'll come back and have a look at it. Good point, Montero. Yes, Carl, please go ahead.
Yeah, for element 9 here, and yes, to
Yeah.
make reference to we were talking about objective evidence, so that would be of course coming in under this element. To
To
have,
element time.
yeah, element 9 to have objective evidence when we close out the NCs or the observations we have received during the audits.
Right, very good. So basically, one point that Carlos put also is important that as an auditor, whenever you go on board, the first thing you are also expected to do is check out whether the previous audit, internal, external audit, the previous internal and external inspections, the previous superintendent visit inspection report, all findings of such sources audits and inspections have been adequately closed out. So that's one of your first tasks. So let's say you're going to chief engineer, and you should have the internal audit, internal external audit report findings with you, the internal and external inspection findings with you. So when you sit with the chief, hello chief, I see that your so and so item was not fixed up when it was supposed to be. The inspection finding and recommendation is completed that, or there is an audit finding or whatever. So that is the first thing that you are expected to do, right? We also have, secondly, you were saying something, please go ahead.
Yeah, with regard to element 8 emergency preparedness. So there are many observation with regard to the drills, the timings, and then it is